Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota, and I'm glad that you joined me for this episode. Today, I wanted to start off, someone left me this really fun hard hat covered in crosses in my office after VBS, and I don't know who did that. And so whoever this was, I just want to thank you for this incredible keepsake of my first VBS here in Yankton, and really my son's first VBS ever. And so that's very special to me. And so whoever that was, I just want to say thank you for that. I thought this week we would talk about children in the faith and children in the church. And part of the reason I would like to is we are just coming off of our VBS weekend, and that was amazing and wonderful. We had over 50 kids here and adults learning about Jesus, having a blast. And we're heading now back into the school year where we've got kids heading back to school, youth heading back to school, looking into the fall and having our children's ministries back, and starting to have more kids and families in worship again, which has been, I think, for me personally, one of the hardest parts of the last year was not to have children in worship, mostly, for their own protection. And it was a lot easier for families to not have to try to get their families ready and get masks on kids and things like that. But for me personally, I think having children in worship is integral to our worship experience. They are part of our community of faith, and I'm very passionate about believing that children belong in the church, and that we as a church need to be welcoming and receptive of our children, and making church a place where they want to be, where they feel like they belong, where church is meant for them as much as it is meant for any of us. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, and just be very clear about how I feel about that. As a mom of two young boys, I think it's only increased my convictions about these things. As a mom, I want the church to be a place where my boys want to be. I want the church to be a place where they're excited about coming, where they have other people in their life that are investing in them, that are teaching them about Jesus, that are showing them the love of Christ and helping them to grow and learn in all of that. And as a pastor, I think it's super important for us, again, to be doing that work of discipling from a very young age. This past week in the sermon, I shared a little bit of my story and how I believe that God was at work in my life from the moment that I was baptized, and probably even before that, really. But how some of that was, growing up in the church and having my parents bring me to church and bring me to Sunday school and help teach Sunday school, and how they really invested in my discipleship in that way. And how, not just mine, but of other kids as well. When they're teaching Sunday school, it wasn't just me in the class, it was other kids as well. And I had parents of my friends who taught us as well, and got to develop these relationships with other adults in the church and in the community who became a really important part of my spiritual life and my spiritual journey. People that I could go to when I had questions, I could go to for encouragement and guidance. And so I think that's a really big, important piece of our life as a church, is how are we doing with our children and our youth? How are we doing in investing in them and making church accessible to them, making Sunday school and educational opportunities that are engaging for them. And I couldn't be more excited about the fact that we have such a wonderful leader for our children and youth ministry in Tiffany. She has just been incredible for this church and what she's been doing and what she's been creating for them. And to experience Vacation Bible School with her at the helm, and really the people that she surrounds herself with to make that kind of event happen in such a really fun way, that's truly a blessing. And I've told the education team, I've told the people that work with our children and youth, I say, what you do in the church is so important, because if we don't do the work of discipling our children, if we don't do the work of raising them up in a community that loves them and making church a place that they feel good about being at, we're not going to have a church in the future. And we see that. We see the percentage of people in each generation that still believe in God, who are still active in the church, drop each generation. And I think part of that is the church sometimes takes for granted our children and our youth. And that's not something that I want to see happen ever in our church. I want us to be a church where children and youth are excited to be here, where worship is fun and engaging for them. When we have children's church, that they have a place where they get to be their wiggly, energetic selves, right? I don't believe that children have to be seen but not heard in order to participate in the worship of the church. And I'm really excited for some of the things that we have coming up. In particular, like I said, this Sunday we're doing our backpack blessing, because so many of our children and youth will be heading to school this next week. I've been seeing on social media other towns where they're already starting, and that's exciting, and it's scary and hard to believe that summer is already over, basically. But we want to make sure that as they go back, that they go back with the confidence and knowledge that they never walk this journey of life alone, that God is with them. God is with them when they're at school, that they have a community of faith that is supporting them in whatever they need. And so that's part of why we do these backpack blessings, is just that encouragement to let them know, hey, we are here with you. We are excited for you. We're ready to support you in whatever ways that we can. And I mean, that goes all the way through to our college students who are going off to school for the first time, maybe leaving home. We want to make sure that we are able to bless them as well, and remind them that even if you're not here in Yankton to go to college, or you're not local, that your church is still with you, and that we still love and want to support you. And so to make sure that we get your addresses, so that we can be doing that throughout the year, because again, that's something we don't forget you when you graduate and move on. You are still beloved, you are still cared for, and we still want to be there for you. So that's one of the things we're doing. That's this Sunday, right before school starts here in Yankton. And so I'm really excited about that. I hope that can be something that people begin to look forward to and see as a special time. And, that maybe kids start to have a collection of little charms and things that we give out each year. And so that they are just again reminded that no matter what they face each and every day, God is with them. And not only that, but the church is with them. So we have that coming up. We have acolyte training, because we want our kids to be involved in worship as much as we can. We would love to have our kids up front more. This past Sunday, when we had the VBS kids leading worship, leading the music portion, showing us what they learned during Vacation Bible School, it was awesome. Awesome. I loved it. I loved having the kids up front. I loved getting to for them to take the lead and show us how they are worshiping God and what they're learning. It's just that there's an energy and an excitement there that is just unparalleled. And so I am super excited to have some kids getting back into training to be acolytes. So I think that's our 4th and 5th graders. And mostly the age is just because they're about getting old enough that they can handle having, fire in the church. So that training is going to be coming up, and I think there's pizza involved as well. So that's another way, again, that we want our children and youth to be involved in worship. Another thing that I know is really great, again, is going back to the music. I believe that our children's bell choir is going to be coming back. So if that's something that you've been a part of, or something that you want to be a part of, know that Sue May is our bell choir director, and she would love to get in touch with you about getting our children's bell choir back, and again, to have them help lead in worship. Again, anytime that we can have more people up front, more people participating and leading in worship so that we all are doing the work of worship together, I think that's awesome. I also know that Sarah Clavon, our praise team director, is also interested that if there are young people who want to be a part of praise team, that she would love to have you be a part of praise team. Maybe you want to help sing a song one Sunday. Maybe you want to play an instrument. Maybe you've been learning guitar or piano, or even I think we might, and I don't know if we do or not, but get some percussion instruments, or I don't know, maybe you want to play the tambourine or the triangle. I don't know. But if you are interested and you say, I would really love to do that, know that we want you to be a part of that. And that we would love to have our children and young people participating in worship in the life of the church. It is a blessing to us when they do. And so that is another option. For, again, ways that kids can participate in worship. One of the ways that they do currently is we have that children's sermon time. And know that if you are someone who loves working with children, and you would love to do that once in a while, I would love to have you join me. It doesn't need to be me doing that every week. I would love to have other people come and share with our children. And so if that's something that is of interest to you, or if you're like, I don't know, I'd love to give it a try sometime, let me know, because again, the more voices, the more variety we have in worship, again, we're doing that work together. This isn't meant to be the Katie show. This is meant to be our church doing worship together. And so I would love to have people who want to participate in worship in different ways. So this fall coming up, we have other ways that we are trying to invest into the lives of our children and our youth. And so we've got 605 coming back, which I've been here a year, but in a lot of ways, there's so much that I haven't experienced about this church. And one of those things is 605. We didn't have it in the same way last year due to COVID. And so to have that come back, I could not be more excited. I could not be more excited to have children in the building, to have their voices and their laughter and their excitement livening up this beautiful space. And so that's coming back on Wednesday nights, and that'll start after our fall kickoff on September 12th. We are going down to one service that day. So on Sunday, September 12th, it's the week after Labor Day, we will have one service at 10 o'clock. Let me say that one more time. One service at 10 o'clock on September 12th. Only that Sunday are the service times changing. That is our official fall kickoff. That means that after that week, basically everything that we're going to be offering on a regular basis this fall will start. And so that includes 605, which will start that following Wednesday. That'll include our children's worship. So that's something we started this spring after Easter as a way to offer something for our children on Sunday mornings, realizing that for a lot of families, there can be conflicts on the weekends with some different activities. And while the main portion of our Sunday school programming and educational content is provided by 605, we still wanted to have something for our children on Sunday mornings. And one of the things that the children's ministry area has been really interested in trying was children's church. And so that's going to be happening again starting the next week after our fall kickoff. And so that'll be during the 9 o'clock service. Come to service like normal, sit with your family, come up for children's sermon, whether that'll be with me or with another beloved adult in the church. And then you're going to head off with one of the children's volunteers and do church-related things together and have some fun. And that'll be up, I think, to 5th grade. I think that's right. You'll see kind of as we go. We're still going to be offering nursery For the younger kids, I think up through 3-year-olds, we'll still have nursery available for them. But then the older kids can go to children's church, and then that'll finish up the same time that worship does. And then there's that coffee fellowship in between. Part of the reasons we moved the church services closer together, which I know for some of you, you're kind of concerned about how that's going to work. It's going to be great. Two main reasons that we did that. One is so that our families that really love our traditional second service can send their kids to children's church, do fellowship, and then worship together as a family in second service. The second reason is because when we have more than one service in the church, oftentimes what can happen is that the two services, the people in those services rarely mingle together. So you can almost start to feel like you have two different churches, two different communities. And so one of the things we wanted to try to do was to have a way for those services or those people to gather together. And so we wanted fellowship time to be very limited, and so that it would overlap, and so those from first service and those from second service would be able to visit with one another, get to know one another, and what's going on in their lives. And so that was very intentional. Again, part of the way that we can make this work and work really well for our church is to remember that a lot of our more mobility limited people attend second service, which means they're showing up to church or showing up for fellowship before the first service people have left. And so if you go to first service in particular and you have the ability to walk a little bit, we would love for you to park in that second lot across the street or just further away from the doors so that we leave space for our visitors and for our second service attendees who maybe can't walk quite as far. And that way they're not discouraged by trying to come to church because maybe they can't park close enough. And so that's just one of the ways that we can work together to make this possible. Not only do we have the acolytes and 605, we also have for our youth, confirmation will be starting this fall this year. We're going to kick off confirmation the same night that 605 is kicking off. And that'll be for our 8th graders and above, for those students who haven't yet gone through confirmation. And so they should be getting letters this month about that. But if you have a student who is that age or older who you'd like to have go through confirmation, just give us a call here at the church. We want to make sure we get them on our list. But that is I think, one of the most important ways that we really work toward discipleship in our children and youth is in the confirmation program. That program is designed to give them a really solid foundation and to give them the opportunity to prepare themselves to make a decision of faith so that they can choose whether or not that their faith in Christ, that their identity as a Christian is one that they have chosen, is one that they want to take on themselves. It's not just something they grew up with, but becomes something that is important to them. That is what it's designed to do. It also is designed to help them understand how the church functions, why we have the things that we do, why we believe what we believe. Gives them opportunities to ask questions and things like that. One of the ways that the adults in this church can be supportive of our confirmation program is that each student will need to have a mentor this year, and a mentor that's not related to them. So they can't, pick their mom or dad to be their mentor. And so if you get asked to be a mentor by one of our confirmation students, I ask that you would prayerfully consider doing that. It is not a weekly commitment this year. It's going to be a little bit different, but we do trust and hope that if you are asked, that you've been asked for a reason, and that you're given an opportunity to really invest in the life of one of our young people. So we have 605, children's worship, confirmation, acolyte training, and then we also have youth group. And youth group will be another area where we can have adults who want to just come and get to know our youth, who are awesome, by the way. I got to know some of our youth through confirmation this last spring and doing some events with them, and they are just some of the most wonderful people that we have in this church. And we have some pretty amazing people in this church, but I would say our youth are right up there. Our youth were there for Vacation Bible School. We had quite a few youth that came each day to help corral kids, to help lead in projects, to help lead games, to help, we were doing these little beaded crafts with 4 and 5 year olds, and we had youth group members who were sitting down being so patient and so kind and helping these little kids get these little keychain crafts done that said forgiven. And when I was doing Habitat on the Build site with our church, we had youth that were there. Our youth are leading the way, and I just think that's incredible. And so if you want to help be a part of our youth ministry, I know that Tiffany is looking for some adult volunteers that just come on Wednesday nights. The youth group is from 7 to 8, and just hang out with them and get to know them and get to be a part of the conversations and the transformation that God is working within them. Youth ministry is part of my background, and it's one of my favorite parts of ministry that I've ever gotten to do. And I will say that as an adult who's been a part of youth ministry, it has affected my faith as well. To know that if they have enough of a solid foundation in Christ, that God is going to use them to do incredible things, and that the church of the future will be stronger than ever because of the youth that we have today. And so I was reading through, I've been working through the summer with my Sunday school class. We've been doing the books of the Bible, the New Testament Challenge, and we've been reading this week. My group was in the Gospel of Matthew, and I want to read this passage to you because I think it kind of fits with what I've been talking about today. And it says, "At that time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, 'Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?' He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, 'Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person through whom they come.'" So that gets pretty dark. But the part that I wanted you to hear in particular, whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And in particular, if you cause a little child to stumble, woe to you. I think as a church, we need to be welcoming to our children. We need to make sure that we are welcoming to our young families. I want to be a church where young families can bring their children and not have to worry about judgment. I want to be a church where young families can bring their children and feel comfortable and know that their children are going to have a great time and they're going to want to come back. I want to be a church where children are a vested part of who we are and a main part of our mission for Yankton and for the world, that we are focusing on our children and our youth, because really they are a vital part of our church. They bring energy, they bring laughter, they bring life, they bring exuberance, they bring excitement, and they're so amazing. And so I hope that each one of us can commit to that. That if children are making noise in worship, that's okay. That's okay. If they're running around in worship, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Because I will tell you, my kids do that. And I will tell you as well that as a parent, I have been told in the past that, my kids can be distracting. They should really be behaving. And my response to that is I disagree with you. I think church needs to be a place where they can be fully who they are and accepted for who they are, because that's what I believe for everybody. That church should be a safe place, that it's a place free from that kind of judgment. But it can be a place where we welcome everyone and we do not cause them to stumble. How many people have walked into a church with small children and felt the judgmental stares when their children dared to make a peep, and then didn't step back into a church again. How awful to think about that. Instead, let us be a church where families can come and know that their children are going to be loved and cared for, and that this is a place where Christ's command to welcome the little children is taken seriously. That's the kind of church that I want to be a part of. That's the kind of church I want for my family, and that's the kind of church I want for you and your family, your children and your grandchildren, and frankly, your great-grandchildren, for the neighborhood kids. I want this to be a place where they know God's love for them, without a doubt, and that we plant those seeds that someday will come to fruition, that someday they will know God's love in their life, and they will remember First United Methodist and the way that this church made them feel welcomed, feel loved, feel supported and encouraged. I forgot one more important ministry that we do to children, and that is Kids Hope is coming back. If you'd like to be a part of that, we're going to be dedicating an upcoming episode of the podcast to talking more about Kids Hope, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. But again, another way we're investing in the lives of children in this church, and I hope that you will join me in that mission, and that you will join me in that vision for the kind of church where all are welcome and all are loved. I hope that you are doing well this week, and I hope to see you in worship on Sunday at either 9 o'clock or 10:30, and don't forget your backpacks. God bless. Thank you for joining us on this episode of What's Going On, a video and audio podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays, and we have two options available. 9 a.m. is our contemporary service, and 10:30 a.m. is our traditional service. You can find those online as well at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org, or on YouTube.